Amy Rose has somehow become one of the most controversial characters in the Sonic franchise. And I can't lie and say I don't see where the complaints are coming from. I feel like in the late 2000s and early 2010s it was Shadow or Silver or Big the Cat. Characters that game reviewers who don't even like Sonic would tout as being signs of the series' overabundance of animal friends. You know, these are the same people who would inspire Sega to later make an entire marketing campaign for Sonic 4 revolving around the fact that it's only Sonic this time around, almost appearing embarrassed of their history. That mindset has loosened up over the years, with universal excitement over the idea of playing as multiple characters in future entries and Sega deciding to once again put a spotlight on characters aside from Sonic, even if just for the purpose of cross-promotion with the upcoming third movie. But one character which has consistently received scrutiny in recent times would have to be one Amy Rose, the girlish fangirl of Sonic. Okay, well that doesn't really apply anymore. The hot-headed, quick-tempered, okay, let me see. Amy Rose, the girl. High progressive. Amy's character has been under a lot of heat lately, which is a shame as that's ironically been the most consistent part of her role in the franchise. There were folks who hated her how she was, and now there are folks who hate her how she is. There's no winner here. In the early entries, Amy was presented as being a girly fangirl for Sonic, someone madly in love with him and not shying away from letting that be known. She was someone who would follow Sonic to the ends of the earth, even admitting that if Sonic were to, for whatever reason, turn on his heroic nature and become the destroyer of worlds or something, that she would still be by his side. A lot of people didn't like this, labeling her as a crazy stalker. And so Sega, I suppose, in an attempt to address this and make sure their most prominent female character wasn't seen as someone so dependent on no man, decided in the mid to late 2010s to course correct, make her love for Sonic more subdued. Her love for Sonic came after her as a character, in which I believe they failed to take a step back and consider, oh, there is nothing else. And so in turn they replaced it with nothing, really. And the ultimate case of irony I've ever seen in this series, Sega have tried to make Amy less stereotypical by removing what was seen as her most toxic trait, and what we're left with is a character who can only really be described as being nice. She loves nice things and wants to give love to the world, whatever that entails, I'm not sure. We've gone from a spunky girl who willingly throws herself in danger to be with and protect the one she loves, into an almost mother hen type of role, who before going into battle has to remind everyone to put on a sweater so they don't get cold.
I just want everyone to get home safely, okay?
And so today I wanted to spend some time discussing Amy as a character. How she was, how she is, some of the misconceptions I believe there to be around her character, and why I think Sega's course correction could have worked if planned for more than a second. Obviously, this is all my subjective thoughts. If you want to offer any different interpretations in the comments, go right ahead. But without further ado, here is Amy, a Rose Without Thorns. Thanks to all two of you out there who got my Sonic Boom reference. By far the biggest point I've seen made about Amy in recent times in regards to how she was, would be that she was problematic as she promoted abusive relationships, being labeled as a stalker. I think the most obvious thing to point out here in response to this is to point out that this is a cartoon world full of cartoon characters with exaggerated personalities, and that Amy's attitude towards Sonic has always been presented as fun and endearing. You know, I don't think Amy hitting Sonic on the head with a hammer should be equated to real-life abuse, that should go without saying. I think that kind of trivializes the actual horrifying act that can happen to someone. And even then, Sonic willingly put her in danger in that scenario, but we don't call him abusive. I think it's more important to talk about how this stuff acts in-universe, without looking at its real-life, unexaggerated counterparts, because, again, cartoon world, cartoon characters, only ever done with a silly tone, it's not that big a deal. What I enjoyed so much about Amy's earliest appearances is that she was fun. She worked off Sonic so well because she too had an attitude. She was able to have a rapport with him. She was in love with Sonic whether or not he wanted her to be, and that's what was so fun about her. That she wouldn't take no for an answer and was just convinced they would be perfect together no matter how much Sonic declined. And it's not even as if Sonic was that adamant about her creeping him out or anything. You always got the idea that Amy's love was nothing more than an inconvenience, something he just didn't have time for while being too busy saving the world.
This way, I'll be able to keep my eyes on you.
Ugh. Their dynamic was cute. She had enough affection for both of them, and if anyone came close to breaking that perfect idea of their relationship, she would get pissed off.
I can't believe he did that just so he could get away. Mr. Sonic must be really... Really? What? Nothing.
She so desperately wanted to be with someone who liked her, sure, at the very least is seen as a friend, but ultimately, he didn't give a shit. You have such amazing interactions like in Chronicles, where she spends the whole game trying to make you jealous by claiming she has a new boyfriend named Dexter, in which you could basically make Sonic have the attitude of, Cool. It's really telling to me that when someone complains about this aspect of her character being toxic, it's always the same couple examples, the most overused being this scene in Heroes.
Amy, what are you doing here?
Sonic, this time there's no way out of marrying me.
She wants to physically assault Sonic just so he can marry her?
That's clearly just used as a dumb excuse for them to have a character battle. They had to do something, you know. But I always saw this as not Amy literally saying, I am going to strap you down and force you to marry me, but instead giving a fun callback to her line from Sonic Adventure 2.
That black hedgehog?
Did you see it? Where is it now?
If I tell ya, will you marry me?
No way!
This is only further implied through the original Japanese translation, in which Amy more so states that she's gonna impress Sonic so much with her ability to beat him in a fight that he won't be able to help but want to marry her. To me, if you want to understand Amy's character, you don't have to look much further than her theme songs. These tunes more often than not being presented as if they were written from the perspective of the character. My Sweet Passion mainly establishes Amy's love for Sonic, that it's something she can't fight, but also that she thinks Sonic needs her too, that she would be nothing but an asset to him, someone who could help him out of the danger he puts himself in on an everyday basis, shown through lines like, This is only then further exemplified through Team Rose's theme in Sonic Heroes, which has lines like,
All the best in life, I wanna get it for you. In my world you're gold, I only wanna protect you.
Sonic is such an anomaly to her, someone so unlike anybody she's ever met, so much so that she can't help but want to be part of his life, with lines like,
You're the star of my scene, we live on the edge of a knife, larger than life.
Despite all that, Amy was still seen as nothing more than an annoying fangirl, and so starting with Sonic Lost World, Sega attempted to rectify this by making this side of her personality less at the forefront, instead acting in this game as Sonic's friend, who talks to him every now and then about the current objective. Cool. I can't believe they unironically tried to have that moment where she's about to die and goes, I never got to tell you that before cutting out. Like, what? There's course correction, and then there's just plain ignorance. Like, they didn't expect you to sit there and go, what the fuck are you on about? You tell them every chance you get. The Boom branch started around this time, and in that case, I think Amy's change is fine. It's a different universe, and so them wanting to make Amy more of a strong, independent woman who don't need no man was fine. I actually like Amy in the Boom cartoon, being angry and abrasive, but clearly having a soft spot for Sonic deep down, despite frequently getting annoyed by his carefree attitude. She was someone who more so tried to convince others that she was a sweet, innocent girl, more than she actually was.
That's brilliant! Where can I find one? I'm a woman! I'm refined and elegant like a delicate flower, you jerk! Now, as I was saying...
However, once Boom was coming to an end, it really seemed as if that personality was then transferred over to her main counterpart, especially with the vocal direction. I don't mind Cindy Robinson's Amy, she's not bad or anything, and I blame this more in direction than anything, but it's hard not to miss her more overactive, high-pitched voice that fit her personality perfectly, even when switching to the 4Kids cast that kept that alive.
Let's go on our honeymoon! Oh, Sonic, I've been looking for you forever!
Initially, they went for this more Minnie Mouse-esque performance to what's basically just Cindy Robinson talking like Cindy Robinson.
Thank you, Sonic. Wow, you look younger every day. What's your secret?
You did it, Sonic. I'm sensing the Titan up ahead. This is it. The big showdown.
There's just something less unique about her voice now. She just doesn't sound like Amy anymore. And I think that's more so a result of her character's direction being so unclear now. Force's Amy was the dictionary definition of a block of wood. That game had so many characters and no time or confidence to do anything with any of them. And so she would mainly just sit there and tell you where to go next. And to be careful, as if you weren't planning that already. And so Frontiers is where we really got to see this new Amy shine. In theory. Now Amy is just a girl who can sometimes be agitated. She shares a lot of issues with the other characters in that game, in that they all talk super slowly without any spark or energy. Like the serious story for some reason made it mandatory that everybody speak to each other like they're bored or something. But the way she's written here, in my opinion, is genuinely awful, to the point where if this wasn't a Sonic game with characters you recognize and know, there would be genuinely nothing to like about it. Okay, so let's do an experiment. Do me a favor and wipe your mind of anything but Sonic Frontiers. Okay, and breathing. Simply looking at this game on its own, What can you tell me about Amy? She's nice. She likes her friends. She, feels bad for small, innocent creatures. Huh. We spend arguably more time than ever with these characters here, more than in all the other games combined. Yet all they appear to do is stand around, commenting on what they're seeing and making small talk, with little to no personality sprinkled in, and Amy gets the worst of it. At least Sonic has some fun banter with Knuckles and reassures Tails that he's a hero, but with Amy, she gets mad that Sonic doesn't want to help save the Coco, and that's kinda it. After seeing them die, she promises that she wants to take time away from Sonic to spread love around the world. What? What does this mean, spread love to the world? You gonna go feed the hungry, have your own off-screen adventures? She says at the end of the game that she's gonna have a road trip out of it, but what does that mean, a road trip out of fucking what? A bigger overall issue I have with the current direction of Sonic is this attitude that these characters are always hanging around each other. When I liked the original mindset that everyone here had their own lives and would spend time apart between adventures, you know, Adventure 1, 2, and Battle even, would all establish Amy as someone who just kinda had her own life.
I wonder where Sonic is. I miss the good old days. Hanging out with my hero, Sonic.
This arc for Amy, if you could even call it that, just has no impact on the player as you know that nothing will amount to it. Amy's gonna be right back in this supporting role in the next Sonic game, I'm calling it now. You can't have her say,
Just you watch. Eventually, you'll be the one relying on me for help.
because we all know Sega would never let Sonic take a backseat for Amy. It's all words, it's an empty promise. Wanna know how I know this? Because she had the exact same fucking arc in Sonic Adventure 1, and nothing happened with it.
I'll make that Sonic respect me. And by that time, it's gonna be too late.
I'm not just a damsel in distress anymore.
This is just an embarrassing line to write. Nobody ever saw Amy as a damsel in distress. You degraded her to that point, Sega. And in an age where Sonic Team is trying to make Sonic a more static character than ever, I think I'd focus more on making these characters shine in the way they are, instead of promising development we know will never happen. Amy is a prime case of overcorrection. After years of criticism of her being nothing more than a creepy stalker, Sega decided to remove those traits from her. But they forgot they actually had to replace that with something interesting to make up for it. And so now she's, ironically, as stereotypical as ever. And I don't buy this argument of character development. You know, God forbid a character grow and change over the years. Because that fails to understand that we actually have to see that growth and change happen. You can't point to this.
I'm sorry. I never got to say.
Amy! And tell me it's anything other than Sega giving in to criticism from people who never even liked the franchise to begin with. Modern Amy could be fine. This direction they're taking with her could have worked, if they weren't always course correcting and changing personalities on a dime, then proceeding to wink to the audience and call it progression.
I'm not just a damsel in distress anymore.
I'm not gonna lie and say Amy was ever one of my favorite characters in the Sonic universe, but she was a fun addition to whatever game she was in. But now I fear she's gonna get restricted to being nothing more than Sonic's friend who is a girl. And that's a pretty sad place to be at after what was claimed to be growth.